Hi, this is Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio and welcome to week 16 of creating a positivity deck. And the word for this week is renew. So as always, I start by journaling. Now I know that a number of you have commented that you do feel that some of the prompts go along well with the fact that we are moving into spring. And I guess to a certain extent that's right, and maybe that influenced the way that I put the sets of words together. But I think if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're moving into autumn, then these can apply equally as well. So whatever I hope you take out of them, whatever it is you feel about each and every word. So, renew. I think when I was putting all these prompts together, which was some time ago, I think what I had in mind was that at several points throughout this journey, there would be kind of touch points, reflection points, and we had that in the slowing down phase with words such as focus and, going back and looking at other things that we'd said. And I think renew is a similar sort of word. And for me, it fits well with rise because, we've had awaken, last week, energy. And I think now I'm sitting at the point where I want to think about renew. People talk about each day being a new day and should start it as a new day. And I think that is absolutely right. But at the same time, I think too that we can't forget some of the positive things that we want to bring with us. So, if recent days haven't been good, there will be some aspects of it that's been good. And for that reason, I just don't want to forget that. So in a sense, I'm reflecting here on the fact that with each new day, I want to renew the good things, the things that I want to do more often. And I just sit and think about what are the things that I want to commit to. And some of these are things that have popped up before. And for me, it was interesting that self-care comes out once again. So that clearly is something that is very important to me because it keeps surfacing. And I'm doing things to try and practice self-care. But I do know that there's more that I need to do. For you, some of the things may well be different. Some of these may resonate with you, but some may be different. So you bring out what you need to bring out. So in a moment, I'll move on to creating my card. Now, I will just say that some of the lighting wasn't great in my studio today. It was a very sunny day, so I did have to actually close the blinds. Otherwise, it would have been very, very bright at times. But when the sun sometimes went behind a cloud, it was starting to get a little bit dark. So you may see fluctuations in the light. So I pulled out some of these, I think the box calls them washi origami papers. And I just pulled out 3 that, the colours really just spoke to me in terms of this notion of renew. And I guess in a sense, this is to a certain extent picking up on the fact that it's spring. It's picking up on the fact that when I woke up this morning, well, I woke up very early and it was still pretty dark, but I managed to go back to sleep. And when I woke up later, it was actually sunny. I could sense that it was sunny. And believe me, that is very welcome at the moment because there's not been enough sunshine recently. And, I just became aware of the fact that it was more like a spring day. And I think therefore, when I was choosing these papers, that was very much influencing me. And that's a good thing for me because I am very much influenced by nature. I don't know if I would have done something different if it had been a rainy day, who knows. But this for me was very much a positive. So I'm just using some matte medium to glue down the papers. using a glue brush with it, although the hairs keep falling out of it. And I'm just looking at which way I want the papers to go up. And I'll just take a bit of time, again, not rushing anything. I know you hear me saying that every week, but I think that's an important part of this process. And with this particular card, there may be some of the card, the actual playing card shows through from underneath, because these papers are quite thin, but that's okay. I said at the very start of this, sometimes it wouldn't be possible to see the card underneath, and other times it might be. So I'm looking at this and starting to think about the colours almost representing the sun. So I decide to cut out a circle. I just freehand it, and sorry, I go slightly out of picture there. It's just sometimes when I'm working I do need to bring it a bit closer to myself so I can actually see what I'm doing. So I cut out the circle, take a look at it against a card, but I feel it's maybe just a little bit too big, and so I'll make it a little bit smaller. So I'm happy with the smaller size, and just looking now at the other piece of paper, and in a moment I will glue down the sun. So I'm starting to see that first piece of paper, although it's got flowers growing through it, I'm starting to see that as really as the sky. And I suppose to a certain extent, I mean, I have some tall shrubs and that in my garden, and sometimes when I look up at the sky I actually see branches and stems. They actually appear to be part of the sky, so I think there's a certain element of that. So I have that as the sky, I have my sun, and I see this as being the foreground, and I start to tear it, and I think what I'm trying to do here is tear it into the shape of hills, and I'm thinking here about the grass and about the flowers that are starting to appear, and almost thinking here about the sun rising in the morning. So just checking that I'm happy with that, and in a moment I'll glue that into place as well. And once it's glued down, I will just leave the card to dry for a few moments. At this point I don't use the heat tool on it, I just leave it until it's more or less dry. It wasn't quite dry when I go into the next stage, but it's more or less. And that's the benefit of it being a sunny and slightly warmer day today. It did dry on its own. And now I'm just going to cut around the edge, trimming off all the overhang of paper. So it's mainly dry, and I start to think about what I'm going to add to it. And I take this canary yellow acrylic paint, and I'm just going to paint on the sun. I quite liked it with the pattern behind, but I wanted to give more emphasis to it as actually being the sun. Sometimes these paints go on quite thin and you can still see the pattern through. I do apply a couple of layers here, and I think while it's possible to still see a little bit, most of it is blocked out. And again, just doing this in a kind of mindful way, doing it with intention, just enjoying each and every brush stroke. So at this stage I'll just say thank you to everyone that's been leaving comments. I very much appreciate each and every comment that's left, and I'm glad there's so many of you either participating by creating your own positivity deck or just enjoying the video and getting something from the video. So thanks to all of you for watching and indeed for commenting. So I'm now looking at what next, and I'm taking some of this neon green and I'm just going to put a little bit along the bottom of the card, again just creating more of a foreground and giving a kind of sense of grass. All of this is just highly stylized. I'm not looking to do anything that's realistic in any way. And for me, that's been part of the fun of working with these cards. Some of them come together very quickly. I don't need to spend a lot of time on it. I spend as long as it takes me to imbue that feeling of positivity into the card. So just adding another layer of that. And what I'll do in a moment is just to take the heat tool and I'm going to give it a little bit of a dry. So that's faded into the background a little bit, but I wanted to bring it out just by using these pens. They're a kind of felt tip, I guess, some description. It's quite difficult to explain exactly what they are because the tips are actually quite hard on them. I don't use them terribly often. I think I actually got them from a supermarket, but they're quite good. They're quite vibrant colours. So again, just using that to kind of emphasise the grass in the foreground. Now I'm going to just take this orange and go around the sun. Often with cards or other pieces of art, I'll use black to kind of outline things, but today I felt like things needed colour. And again, I think that's whole part of this rise state of being. And that just helps to give emphasis to the sun. Now go back to the green, and I'm just going to kind of outline the top of the hills. It gives more definition to them, and it also helps them stand out against the sun in the background. And taking the blue, I'm just putting little lines across just to help signify the sky. A little bit of outlining on the flowers. I'm not going to do them all, but it just helps the couple in the middle just stand out a little bit more. And sorry, a bit of blur there. And I'm now using this gold luster to go round the card, but I also add it to the sun, and I like the way that it picks up the lines of the paint underneath, so just adds that bit of texture to it. And it also picks up a bit of the texture at the bottom of the card, again just where the paint had been, where I'd painted in the grass. And I like the fact that that's giving it almost a bit of a glow. You know, as the sun rises, you sometimes get that lovely glow in the morning. So I get to that point and it's time to put my word on. Now, I have been doing some clearing out recently. One of my commitments was to clearing space. Been doing some clearing out, and I did actually find my label maker, which was a bonus. So I decided this week just to use my label maker to do my word. And I'll use a little bit of the matte medium just to help stick it in place. It might have been sticky enough, but since I've had the actual roll of label for a while, I wasn't sure. And the benefit of putting the wet medium on it is that I could actually move it about a bit until I got it in the spot that I wanted. And that's my card for Renew. So of course I then spent a minute or two just reflecting on my journal notes and how I'd taken that into my card. So as always, I thank you for watching. I hope you will join me again next week, and meantime, bye for now.